Chapter 1126. Xinjing's Call. Zhang Yi's eyes became serious. He knew that what was coming would eventually come, and the peace after the end of the world could not last forever. In the past 6 months, except for the troubles brought by the Dragon King, there were no other disturbances in their Tianhai city. However, things still happened frequently in other places in the entire Jiangnan region. But then again, the reason why Tianhai City was peaceful was only because Zhang Yi was strong enough. Otherwise, if the Dragon King did not come to seek revenge on him, but instead caused chaos in other areas of the Jiangnan region, I am afraid that the entire Jiangnan region would be turned upside down. Zhang Yi connected to Zhu Zheng's call. Zhu Zheng's projection appeared in the air. His cauliflower white hair was combed into a 3:7 split with hair oil, and he sat at his desk with a smile on his face. Zhang Yi, long time no see. How have you been recently? Still the same. Zhu Shuai never comes to visit without a reason. Why did he come to me this time? Zhang Yi asked directly. Zhu Zheng chuckled. It seems that you still understand me. If there is no special event, I will not look for you. Can you come to Blizzard City? There is something very important that I must talk to you in person. Zhang Yi asked. What can't be discussed on the phones? Zhu Zheng's tone became heavy, and his expression became a little serious. It is very, very important. Zhang Yi knew that Zhu Zheng was not a person who liked to joke. He thought about it and replied, I will go there later. Zhu Zheng nodded. Well, I have arranged a special train to wait for you in Tianhai City. That's not necessary. I have my own car. Zhu Zheng was a little surprised to hear this, but still nodded. Okay, I'll wait for you to come. After ending the call, Zhang Yi immediately went to find Yang Xinxin, who was playing mahjong. When the call came, she seemed to be shuffling cards on the surface, but in fact her ears were already quietly listening to the conversation here. Is it Zhu Zheng who is looking for you? Zhang Yi said. He said he has something important for me to talk about. Xinxin, you should go with me this time. Zhou Kuer and Yang Xie showed worried looks on their faces. He is looking for you. It must be nothing good. Zhang Yi smiled and said, let's talk about the same thing. Let's go and see what he has to say first. Yang Xinxin stood up. Okay, I'll go back and change clothes first. Yang Xinxin went to change into a new combat uniform. This was made by Lu Qian, using some of the materials of e-metal. Nowadays, it is no problem to say that Zhang Yi's material technology is far ahead of Blizzard City, and it is even possible to lead the entire Huaxiu Kingdom. Zhang Yi also changed into combat uniforms. He held Hua and Yang Xinxin and came to the narrow corridor in front of the door. Zhang Yi ordered through the intelligence system, bring out the car. As soon as he finished speaking, the heavy floor under his feet suddenly cracked to both sides, and then a silver-gray chariot slowly floated up. This is a new type of transportation built by Lu Qian for Zhang Yi, the Snow Silver Fox. The surrounding area was already covered with snow. The speed of the snowmobile was extremely fast, even faster than the special train of Blizzard City. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin got on the car. Yang Xinxin held Hua in her arms. Zhang Yi started the car and sped all the way to Blizzard City. The new snowmobile sped all the way in the heavy snow, like a silver fox in the snow. The car drove automatically. Zhang Yi opened the warm box and took out 2 cups of hot drinks from it. He opened the pull ring of 1 cup and handed it to Yang Xinxin and drank 1 cup himself. Recently, there has been no large-scale movement in the Jiangnan district. What do you think Zhu Zheng wants to do by calling me over? Zhang Yi asked Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin took a sip of the drink with both hands, thought about it carefully, and said lightly, Zhu Zheng has complicated feelings toward you now. He wants to use you, but he is afraid of your strength. In addition, you only obey his orders, so he will not call you over unless it is absolutely necessary. Only in this way can he weaken your existence as much as possible to ensure his own authority. And there has been no Epsilon-level disaster in the Jiangnan region. Below the Epsilon level, they can solve it themselves. Half a year has passed, and the Captain-level aliens in Blizzard City are also growing, and with the advent of the era of Great Mutation, many new geniuses have emerged. Just as Zhang Yi said, This world is not short of geniuses, but lacks the soil for geniuses to rise. Yang Xinxin continued, so, I guess there are two possibilities. First, Tianhai City has encountered trouble that may be Epsilon level. For example, they found a place like Fog Valley, but they don't have the ability to explore it. Second, Zhu Zheng's position is threatened. Someone is challenging his authority, and he needs to urgently win you over, or at least help you remain neutral. The third point, Yang Xinxin took a sip of hot coffee and said lightly, then it can only be something outside the Jiangnan region. If that's the case, the situation will be more troublesome. We have to listen to what Zhu Zheng says. Zhang Yi subconsciously took out a white owl and rubbed it in his hand. After Liu Karen's transformation, the white owl has a more slender and elegant gun body, and the gun body is decorated with violet, which Zhang Yi likes. When he has a gun in his hand, his heart there is always a sense of steadiness in the heart, which has long been a habit of his. Even in the early days, whether he was in the safe house in Yuelu community or the shelter when he first arrived at Yunk Manor, whenever he couldn't sleep, he would always take out his gun to feel its quality. Let me see what happened again. Zhang Yi murmured. The silver fox was speeding in the ice and snow. The entire Tianhai city had been submerged by blizzards countless times. Except for a few fixed strongholds where people lived, the snow in most other places was tens of meters thick. This was once the most prosperous metropolis in Huashu country, but now only the towering high-rise buildings can be vaguely seen. More than an hour later, Zhang Yi and his team passed through several cities before arriving at Blizzard City. The reinforced concrete wall of tens of meters high was like an unbreakable wall, and below it was a heavy and huge alloy gate. Knowing that Zhang Yi was coming, the defenders here had already been greeted. The commander of Yenyun Guard came over in person and greeted Zhang Yi respectfully. Captain Chaos, the commander is waiting for you at the Combat Command Center. Zhang Yi nodded, and after the gate opened, he drove towards the city. The soldiers behind him looked at the back of the snow fox, silently raised their right hands, and saluted solemnly. No matter what kind of person Zhang Yi is, he is now the real patron saint of the Jiangnan region. With his existence, the Jiangnan region can retain some dignity among the 6 regions of Huashu. It also prevents some chaotic forces in the southern seas and the southern land of Huashu from invading. Chapter 11:27 Yuan. In this world, the only thing that does not change is change. Coming to Blizzard City again, Zhang Yi could feel that the city had become very different from before. After nearly 2 years of apocalyptic baptism, this Blizzard City has been able to adapt to the harsh environment and has begun to develop in a good direction. The ability of humans to adapt to the environment is sometimes more terrifying than cockroaches. On the way, he also met more aliens. There were many familiar faces among them. Those were the alien representatives from major cities in Jiangnan that he had met when he first came to Blizzard City a year ago. Now many of them have become the elite of the Yenyun Guard. Perhaps one day, the best of these people will also become the new captain candidate. However, Yang Xinxin gave a different opinion on this point. Zhu Zheng is anxious to expand his team. If he wants to firmly grasp the power in his hands, he must have more and stronger subordinates. The power inside Blizzard City has long formed a certain pattern, and recruiting aliens from outside is the best choice. She paused and continued, of course, this also includes worrying about you. Zhang Yi nodded. He probably wants to create his own Epsilon now. It's a pity that Zhu Yu is not Yuan Kongya. She can't become Epsilon through Bingpa. Old Zhu should either get her a source of God, or train another one. But no matter which method is harder than climbing to the sky. The two chatted and soon arrived at the Combat Command Center. Greeted by Lan Xinqing, the two came to Zhu Zheng's office. Lan Xinqing pushed the door eagerly and bowed to invite the two to come in. When they opened the door, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin saw Zhu Zheng sitting behind the desk, and opposite him sat a familiar figure. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Zhu Zheng looked over and greeted with a smile. Zhang Yi, you are finally here. We have been waiting for you for a long time. The figure turned around and looked at Zhang Yi. The beautiful peach blossom eyes were now a little frosted, but he still raised his eyebrows at Zhang Yi as cynically as before. Zhang Yi, long time no see. Zhang Yi looked at him and couldn't help but feel a little dazed. The man in front of him cut his long hair, and his handsome face looked more mature, with even sparse stubble at the corners of his mouth. This was the most noble young man in Jiangnan region, Deng Shintong. After half a year, he looked more mature and thinner. But it was no wonder. After returning from the Qingdao mission, Li Long died and Taotai Lu Huang was seriously injured. From then on, he became the main force in any action. Half a year of experience has made him grow continuously. Zhang Yi smiled and nodded. Yeah. But he was a little curious in his heart. What exactly did Zhu Zheng want to talk to him about? And why was Deng Shintong here? Zhu Zheng warmly invited Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin to sit down, and Lan Xinqing brought them hot drinks. After a brief greeting, Zhu Zheng got to the point. 3 days ago, I received news from Shengjing District. They issued a call for our 5 districts to send people over to discuss important matters. Moreover, he looked up at Zhang Yi. They specifically asked the Ypsilon aliens from the 5 districts to go. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin looked at each other and thought. Sure enough, Xinxin guessed it right. Shengjing District is the first of the 6 districts in Huaxu Country and the most powerful district. Relying on their already strong military strength, coupled with the discovery of the source of the gods under the Qinling Mountains, they have a strong strength that other districts can't match. Zhang Yi drank hot tea and asked calmly, why? Zhu Zheng smiled. They said it's about the Qinling Mountains. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin's eyes suddenly became a little serious. It is said that there is a big secret hidden under the Qinling Mountains. The reason why Shengjing District can now have absolutely powerful power is inseparable from that secret. Zhang Yi has always believed that it should be a place similar to Qingdao Fog Valley. Could it be that there are also terrifying creatures like the black armored monster under the Qinling Mountains? Zhang Yi couldn't help but think about it. Zhu Zheng said, they didn't say what it was specifically. They just said that all matters must wait until our people arrive in Shengjing, and then the Shengjing Regional Commander Qin Qigong will personally discuss it with you in detail. However, they did reveal one thing. Under the Qinling Mountains, they discovered a new type of element, named Yuan. Zhu Zheng said, taking a metal box from the side and opening it in front of Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin. Inside was a small piece of light blue ore, which still emitted a faint fluorescence even under the light. Is this ore? Why is it still glowing? Is there radiation? Zhang Yi asked cautiously. Zhu Zheng smiled and said, don't worry, it's only weak radiation, not as strong as that from a cell phone, so it won't hurt anyone. But it contains extremely powerful energy. If it can be used, this small piece can release the energy of a ton of coal. Zhang Yi was stunned. He opened his mouth because he was too shocked. Surprised, she didn't even know what to say for a moment. Yang Xinxin stared at the small piece of ore carefully, and suddenly said thoughtfully, I thought of a past event. In the 1960s, the northern big country Surimans once had a plan called Planetary Telescope. They once tried to dig towards the center of the Earth, and once reached a depth of 10,000 meters. People at that time didn't know their purpose, and even thought they did it just to show their advanced industrial level. But when the drilling depth reached 12,262 meters, the plan was suddenly terminated. And Surimans took a strict gag order on this matter, and no news spread out. She reached out and picked up the ore fragment and slowly said, could it be that at that time, the big country in the north had already discovered this treasure deep underground? Human beings no less than 1% of this planet. The sky, the earth, and the deep sea all have endless secrets and huge treasures waiting for humans to explore. The emergence of the source of God allowed people to discover the abyss. The emergence of the abyss allowed people to find this underground or rich in energy. Zhu Zheng said, people in Shengjing District said that with their current strength, they simply cannot fully develop the underground of Qinling Mountains. So they hope to cooperate with other districts. By then, we can also get a share of this ore. Zhu Zheng's eyes were somewhat eager. He had already obtained data from Li Lingxue of the research department. If this ore can be mined in batches, the energy problem of Blizzard City will be completely solved. By then, the heating problem will no longer be a problem, and they will also have the hope of returning to the living standards before the end of the world. Even reproduce and thrive well. Chapter 11:28 Joint Mining. Zhang Yi took a look at the so-called yuan or fragments in Yang Xinxin's hand. He actually didn't feel much interest in this thing. Tianhai City is not short of resources. Strictly speaking, his shelter is not short of resources. In the entire Tianhai City, more than 80% of the resources are in his hands, and 20% of the resources are left to more than 10,000 people in the 3 major bases to keep them alive. So even if he gets this kind of yuan, or Zhang Yi has no place to use it. But he is very interested in the so-called underground of the Qinling Mountains. Shengjing District will not be so kind as to let us go over and share a piece of the pie. They must have encountered very serious troubles, so they invited people from the 5 major districts to go. And they also specifically asked our top combat forces to go, which is a bit Sima Zhao's heart and passers-by know it. Zhang Yi maintained his usual alertness to danger. However, Yang Xinxin looked down at the yuan ore in his hand, but showed a thoughtful expression. Zhu Zheng certainly understood that Zhang Yi was not the kind of person who liked to take risks. He advised with a smile, Zhang Yi, the significance behind this matter is great. If the yuan mine is mined well, the entire Huashu country can support a large population and survive in the end times. Now this matter is no longer a personal matter, but has risen to a major event for the future of Huashu country. Zhu Zheng leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath. You are the only Epsilon alien in my Jiangnan region. In fact, I don't want you to do anything that may be dangerous. But in the face of such problems, sometimes I think that personal weighing of pros and cons can be put aside for a while. If this matter is placed in front of me, I will definitely go. At this point, Zhu Zheng looked at Zhang Yi's indifferent eyes, smiled self-deprecatingly, and spread his hands. I know that you must think what I said is hypocritical now. But please remember that I, Zhu Zheng, am a soldier, and even more a Huashu countryman. In front of the righteousness of the country, I will not joke. Zhang Yi looked at Zhu Zheng deeply, and Zhu Zheng looked at him with a sincere and helpless pleading. The righteousness of the country is real. But it is also true that he hopes to obtain the yuan mine so that the Jiangnan district can develop better and protect more people to live. Perhaps Zhu Zheng cannot be simply evaluated as a good guy or as bad guy, but Zhang Yi thinks that he is indeed a competent commander of the district. And Zhang Yi has seen everything he has done to build the Jiangnan district. He lowered his head, picked up the teapot on the table, and poured himself a cup of tea. Go or not? Zhang Yi has not made up his mind. There is such a saying in his code of conduct. If you are rich, you should help the world. If you are poor, you should take care of yourself. In the past, he was weak and could only protect himself, so he had to live selfishly. Within the scope of his ability, he would also put the status of those around him second only to him. If possible, he also has the desire to become a national hero and defend his country. Zhang Yi is weighing how risky this action is and whether the risk he takes matches the possible benefits. At this moment, Yang Xinxi next to him suddenly looked at Zhang Yi and smiled gently. Brother, going to Shengjing district is not a trivial matter. I think you don't need to rush to give an answer. You can think about it carefully. Zhang Yi came back to his senses and nodded. He was actually somewhat infected by the old guy Zhu Zheng. Fortunately, Yang Xinxin reminded him. Zhang Yi said to Zhu Zheng, Indeed, I must think about this matter carefully. Zhu Zheng nodded. Of course, it's still up to you to decide whether to go or not. But Zhang Yi, this time when we go to Shengjing district, if we successfully get the share of the yuan mine, you can take half. Zhu Zheng's move was still quite generous. Although this is just a blank check now, without the district as a guarantee, Zhang Yi can't go to Shengjing in his personal name, let alone contact the Qinling Mountains that are heavily defended. Deng Shintong also smiled at Zhang Yi and said, I will go there this time. If you have any questions, you can ask me. The Deng family has a very dense network of relationships in Huashu State, and they also have 1,000 connections in Shengjing. Deng Yuanhua even said in person that they knew more detailed information about Shengjing than Zhu Zheng did. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows and said to Deng Shintong, "Okay, come over later. I just have some questions I want to talk to you about." Zhu Zheng hurriedly said, "Shintong, in that case, you can chat with Zhang Yi first." They had already finished talking about the topic before Zhang Yi came. Zhang Yi said this, obviously not wanting Zhu Zheng to get involved. After all, young people have different ways of chatting, and it would be uncomfortable to have an old man around. Deng Shintong stood up. "Okay, Zhu Shuai, we'll leave first." Zhu Zheng nodded with a smile. Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Deng Shintong left Zhu Zheng's office. Zhu Zheng sat on the sofa and frowned deeply. If we can get that kind of mineral vein, it is not impossible for the Jiangnan region to restore its former prosperity. He rubbed his eyebrows hard. If we want to develop sustainably, we must solve the energy problem. After all, our reserve fossil fuels are becoming less and less, and they can't sustain us for many years. Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Deng Shintong left the combat command center and came to the villa prepared for Zhang Yi. Today, this is the most luxurious place in the entire Blizzard City, even more advanced than Deng Garden where the Deng family lives. As for Zhu Zheng, as a military man, he is not obsessed with material enjoyment. As if to show his integrity, he lives in a very simple two-story building. Zhang Yi's evaluation of Zhu Zheng is that he is ambitious and capable, and his demands for material desires are not high, but he is keen to grasp power. After Zhang Yi came to the villa, there were special service staff waiting here 24 hours a day. Even if Zhang Yi was not there, they had to be prepared for Zhang Yi's arrival at any time. Zhang Yi came to the huge living room. The waitress was a girl named Zhu, who was young and beautiful and had a cheerful and sunny temperament. She has 70% of the feeling of Zhou Kuo. It can be seen that she was specially selected by Zhu Zheng for Zhang Yi. "Sir, welcome home." Zhu smiled brightly, prepared slippers for Zhang Yi and the others, and asked if they wanted some drinks and if they had any other service needs. Zhang Yi asked her to serve some hot drinks and food to the 3 people and the cat, and then asked her to go outside first. When there was no one else in the villa, Zhang Yi asked Deng Shintong, "Tell me, how much do you know about the Qinling Mountains?" Chapter 11:29 Chess. Compared to the Yuan mine, Zhang Yi cares more about what is under the Qinling Mountains. What happened on Earth would make the strongest Shengjing district invite the other 5 districts to help at the cost of some high-energy ores. Yang Xinxin was drinking tea quietly beside him. When Zhang Yi talked about things, she rarely spoke, but she remembered the words of others clearly. Deng Shintong leaned on the sofa, crossed his legs, and now his aura of a nobleman has changed a lot. He no longer has the elegance that he deliberately showed in the past, but is more casual. "I heard that Ypsilon Jinyuanzi, who is responsible for guarding the Qinling Mountains in Shengjing District, encountered big trouble under the Qinling Mountains. No one knows the specific situation, but we only know that mutated creatures appeared underground and killed many people. Even Jinyuanzi had a hard time crawling out of the underground and was seriously injured." Deng Shintong glanced at Zhang Yi and said leisurely, "Do you think it is the same existence as the black-armored monster that appeared in the Fog Valley?" Zhang Yi fell into deep thought. "Another creature from the underground world? Do you have any information?" Deng Shintong said, "It is said to be a mutant creature called the centipede." He spread his hands and said, "You should know that humans can mutate, and so can other creatures in this world. The vast ocean and the endless underground, I don't know how many creatures are affected and mutated." Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. For those unknown worlds, he had a deep awe in his heart and a vague feeling of uneasiness. The words of the Dragon King before his death were still in his mind, reminding him from time to time that the matter of Qingdao was not over yet. "Are you planning to go to Shengjing?" Zhang Yi asked. Deng Shintong nodded. "Of course, our Deng family has some connections in Shengjing, and this time we are going there to communicate with some old friends. With me here, many things will be much more convenient." "Of course," he spread his palms and smiled. "Zhu Shuai hopes that you can go there, and I will be responsible for being your guide." Zhang Yi looked at him with a smile. "So, you should know a lot about Shengjing." Deng Shintong said lightly, "Of course, I stayed there a lot when I was a child." Then tell me about the Xinjiang region. Zhang Yi took a sip of tea and showed an attitude of listening. His information channels are not broad. Except for the Jiangnan region, he can almost say that he knows nothing about other regions. Therefore, he was inevitably wary of rashly going to an unfamiliar area and meeting unfamiliar people. Deng Shintong did not have any reservations and immediately introduced it to Zhang Yi. As for the history, culture, and military strength of Xinjiang, these things are common sense, and there is nothing special to introduce. And what he focused on was the top combat power of the Xinjiang region. How many Epsilon-level aliens do you think there are in Xinjiang? He asked Zhang Yi with a smile, leaving the question unanswered. Zhang Yi sneered. You're testing me with this? This is not difficult for me. The Qinling Mountains are an important place, and we need a top alien to guard it. The foundation of Xinjiang should be the Ho-Tu, whose ability code is Hell's Guillotine. According to the current situation, even if Xinjiang has mastered a mysterious area like the Qinling Mountains, the number of top aliens cannot exceed that of other areas by much. So I guess it should be 2 or 3. Deng Shintong couldn't help but applaud after hearing this. Smart, you guessed right. There are 3 Epsilons in Xinjiang. He took a deep breath and said with emotion, everything is thanks to the source of God. If he was the one who got the source of God, with the power of the Deng group, he could definitely train him into an Epsilon. But unfortunately, he didn't get it. Then, he asked Zhang Yi to introduce the 3 top fighters of Xinjiang in detail. Before that, I think I should introduce you to the classification of Epsilon levels. Compared to Delta, Epsilon is a more powerful level, because after reaching this level, the life level of the aliens is already in another realm. If it was in ancient times, they could even be worshipped as gods by ignorant people. And the classification of this ability level is also more complicated. This is the first time Zhang Yi has heard of this statement. He couldn't help but say, "Oh, tell me about it." Deng Shintong said, at present, it is internationally recognized that the classification of Epsilon levels is divided into 9 levels according to the ability index. In theory, the ability index of Epsilon, that is, the ability value within the scope of our human understanding, is defined as more than 10,000 points, and the upper limit is unknown. Of course, don't ask me where this data comes from. It can only be said that it is a rough classification method currently used by humans. As for whether there is a scientific basis, you have to ask those professionals. Zhang Yi nodded, which is true. The end of the world has just arrived for a year and a half, and many so-called level divisions are just for the convenience of statistics and calculations. Deng Shintong then said, the nationally recognized classification standard is based on chess pieces. There are 6 types of chess pieces, namely soldiers, chariots, bishops, knights, queens, and kings. Chess pieces are black and white. And according to the definition, all the mutants below Epsilon are collectively referred to as soldier-level mutants. At Epsilon, that is, the level division with a superpower index of more than 10,000 points, the first is the chariot level. The superpower index of 10,000 to 20,000 points is the white chariot, 20,000 to 30,000 points is the black chariot. Next, it is the bishop level. The superpower index of 30,000 to 40,000 points is the white bishop. The superpower index of 40,000 to 50,000 points is the black bishop. Then it is the knight level. The superpower index of 50,000 to 60,000 points is the white knight. The superpower index of 60,000 to 70,000 points is the black knight. After that, it is the queen level. The superpower index of 70,000 to 80,000 points is the white queen. The superpower index of 80,000 to 90,000 points is the black queen. The superpower index above 90,000 points is the theoretically highest existence in the Epsilon field, the king level. The king level only exists in theory, and no one knows what its upper limit is. If we give a brief summary of Deng Shintong's words, we get the following data. Below 10,000 points, soldier. 10,000 to 19,999 points, white chariot. 20,000 to 29,999 points, black chariot. 30,000 to 39,999 points, white bishop. 40,000 to 49,999 points, Black Bishop. 50,000 to 59,999 points, White Knight. 60,000 to 69,999 points, Black Knight. 70,000 to 79,999 points, White Queen. 80,000 to 89,999 points, Black Queen. 90,000 Unknown King. The above are relatively clear rules for dividing the levels of the aliens in the world today. Chapter 1130. Requesting People. After listening to this, Zhang Yi rubbed his chin. I haven't played chess either. Why not use our chess name? Deng Shintong spread his hands. Initially we had a set of rules, following the 9-character mantra, Lin Bing Do, Zhijiadai Qianxing. It's just that foreigners can't translate these words, nor can they understand them. So, for the sake of convenience, we are used to using theirs. Of course, some people in the official report also make written explanations according to our standards. Zhang Yi spread his hands. Whatever. It's just a nickname, anyway. Then, what level is Ypsilon in Xinjiang District? Zhang Yi's current ability index is as high as 15,000 points, but according to this rule, it is only the lowest, White Chariot. He was very curious. Xinjiang, which was the first to obtain the source of the gods and the underground resources of the Qinling Mountains, cultivated how strong a person was? Deng Shintong smiled and said, I don't know about these. The various regions are very secretive about Ypsilon. Except for some extraordinary people who have a record of taking action, there is not much information about other people. There are a total of 3 Ypsilons in Xinjiang region. At present, we only know that the Qinling Mountains, the guardian of Wuyo Valley, Zhen Yuanzi, has an ability index of 16,000 points, and his ability code is Guarding the 8 Directions. It is an ability that can control the earth and rocks. The second one is the Commander-in-Chief of Xinjiang Longming Guard, Xidagarba. His abilities are unknown, and his ability index is unknown. As the Commander-in-Chief of Longming Guard, he rarely leaves Xinjiang. As his code name suggests, his responsibility is to guard the capital. He is also one of the most mysterious people in Xinjiang. The third one, you have seen his ability. The first Ypsilon born in Xinjiang region, Ho-Tu, with the ability code name, Hell's Guillotine. The ability index is unknown, but according to estimates, he looked at Zhang Yi with a deep look, at least more than 20,000. Zhang Yi crossed his arms. Xinjiang district is indeed worthy of being the first district. The strength on paper alone is so terrifying. If you consider their many years of foundation and the fact that they control the most powerful and most loving death gods in Huashu country, Zhang Yi can hardly imagine how powerful Xinjiang is. This makes me even more curious. Zhang Yi said lightly, how dangerous is it that they can't solve the problem with such powerful power? Deng Shintong spread his hands. That may not be the case. Maybe they are not incapable of solving it, but the price they need to pay may be too high, so we need to share the risk with the other 5 districts. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows and understood what Deng Shintong said. As a child of a big family, he looks at the problem more clearly. It's like doing business. The big boss will not hold all the shares but invite others to join in so that he can get more resources and share the risk. Deng Shintong advised Zhang Yi, I think you can go to Xinjiang this time. Anyway, go and see what they say. Besides, he leaned over and lowered his voice. This is a rare opportunity to meet the top leaders of the 6 major districts of the entire Huashu kingdom. If you miss it, you don't know when the next time will be. Aren't you curious? Anyway, you're just going to take a look. If you find it's not worth it, the worst thing is to quit. Xinjiang is only the nominal head of the 6 major districts, but it has no right to order us to do things. What's there to worry about? Zhang Yi's hand tapped the armrest of the sofa, but he just smiled slightly and said, I'll think about it again. After a few casual greetings, Zhang Yi sent Deng Shintong away. He planned to ask Yang Xinxin's opinion. Unexpectedly, Yang Xinxin gave Zhang Yi a unique explanation. Brother, you don't seem to realize how important this new element ore is. Yang Xinxin stared at Zhang Yi and said with a smile, but her eyes were extremely serious. Zhang Yi asked curiously, Oh,
How do you say that?
Yang Xinxin stroked the flower on her knee and said lightly, although we are not short of energy now, the emergence of this new element can improve the overall technological level of the shelter by at least 100 years. Yang Xinxin snapped her fingers. For example, the most troublesome problem for her now is the core of the mecha. It's impossible for the mecha to drag a huge tanker wherever it goes, right? Under the conditions of the same volume, the energy contained in yuan is many times that of fossil fuels. As long as we get a large amount of metamatter, we can use it in weapons, cars, mechas, and even the defense of the entire shelter. Brother, how can you think this kind of thing is not important? Zhang Yi heard Yang Xinxin's explanation and realized the importance of this new element. No wonder Lao Zhu offered me half of the yuan, or did I not realize its value? Yang Xinxin nodded and said with emotion, that was a new element that the superpower in the north once spent a huge price to obtain from the endless underground. If they had succeeded at the time, the world might be completely different now. Zhang Yi was not very interested in those things. You mean I should go there, right? Yang Xinxin nodded. Anyway, there will be no harm in going there to take a look. Why not go there? Zhang Yi might not listen to others, but he would definitely take Yang Xinxin's opinions into consideration. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa and thought for a long time. If he left Xinjing, what would happen to Tianhai City? He had offended many people. If someone attacked Tianhai City while he was away in Xinjing, it would be dangerous. After thinking for a while, Zhang Yi thought of a good way to solve the problem. He stood up and said, let's go find Zhu Zheng. He wanted to find Zhu Zheng and ask for someone. Zhang Yi did not waste any time and came back after leaving for a few hours. He went straight to Zhu Zheng and told him, I've decided. I'll go to Xinjing. But I need you to give me someone. Zhu Zheng was delighted. As long as Zhang Yi agreed to go, the conditions would be easy to negotiate.
Who do you want?
There are countless elites and beauties in Blizzard City. You can pick anyone you like. Zhang Yi shook his head and said, that's not necessary. Let's leave it to my brother Su Qinling. I only need Jingwei. Zhu Zheng was a little surprised. Jingwei? Jingwei's strength was not strong. It was just at the captain level, and his talent was not particularly high. She was pretty good-looking, but compared to the women around Zhang Yi, she was not outstanding. Zhu Zheng didn't quite understand what Zhang Yi's purpose was. But if he could send Zhang Yi to Xinjing district by paying a Jingwei, Zhu Zheng was certainly happy. Please subscribe if not already. Thanks.